you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K, 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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K, 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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to Lafleur.
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the ball!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement, et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Coupe Stanley pour les Canadiens, le 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs! And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup!
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. La Vida TV. It's gonna be sick.
Marinaro, speaking of sick, what a hockey game tonight in Buffalo. The Canadiens win by a score of 4-3 in a shootout. And normally I'd probably be a little bit disappointed that the Montreal Canadiens won this game. But you know what? It was fun. It was really, really fun. The guys had a blast. Michael Pezzetta scores the game-winning goal. Let me get that out of the way. And Coach Marty St. throws out anyone that wanted to get out there in overtime and in the shootout. And Michael Matheson had a shot at it, and Jonathan Kovacevic had a shot at it, and Michael Pezzetta had a shot at it. And you see Pezzetta's goal, my God, wow, upstairs, quick snapshot, and then the Tiger Williams celebration right after the goal, much to the delight of a lot of Montreal Canadiens fans that were in attendance in Buffalo. What a hockey game. We saw the Canadiens go on a power play in overtime, and they weren't able. We saw good goals. We saw bad goals. We saw some good stops in the shootout. We saw maybe some that should have been stopped that went in. Anyways, a lot of fun. Really a lot of fun. And it's always fun when the Wilde man joins me. Brian Wilde from Global TV Montreal. What's going on?
Hey, that was, to take my own name, that was wild.
That was wild.
And I just finished my work with about 11 seconds to spare.
You know what?
I mean, that went right to the button, eh?
Yeah, no, me too. So I'm set up. You know, it's funny because so I'm set up in my podcast studio. I have a TV and stuff like that, but it's I think it's like probably a 32-inch this TV, or maybe a 27 or 32, something like that, right? But in my man cave, yeah. I have an 85-inch TV. So
85! I didn't even know they made that.
Yeah, it's a beautiful Sony. I love it. Thank you, Enzo. And so what I do is I'm watching the game there. So I left everything on, and I'm like, please let this game be over sometime soon, because I was worried that Agnello and Sammy, back from Master Control, are putting this thing live here, and I'm going to be in the other room still watching the penalty shots. But Michael Pezzetta was able to answer my prayers and put it to an end. But
yeah,
what a hockey game, huh?
My story is I'm over there working. I got a little bit of a station there in front of the TV. I think you can see the TV, can't you?
Yeah, I can.
Only 65 inches. So
yeah,
nice. A little one, in your mind. And so I was watching the countdown that Agnello was nice enough to put up.
Yeah.
And when Pezzetta scored, I look over and it's like 11 seconds. I'm like, uh-oh. But what a game, huh? The funny thing is, and I just tweeted it, like, this is a team that at the All-Star break, I looked at Tankathon's strength of schedule, right? And they had the hardest strength of schedule. They were playing, 2 against Carolina, 2 against Boston, 3 against Tampa, 2 against Toronto. I mean, you name it, every really good team, they were playing at least twice. And they're only 1 game lost to 500 since the All-Star break, with as many as 12 regulars out of the lineup.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
It's Marty St. Louis concepts kicking in, Brian.
That's exactly what it is, my friend. That's exactly what I was going to say, where I was going to go with it. The theme of my Call of the Wild that I just finished was all about that. They're playing modern hockey. You look at that first goal. I mean, you don't get a better example of modern hockey than that one. Mike Matheson's the F1 on the play. He leads the rush. He leads the charge. He's so confident in what he's able to do. He's got the carte blanche from his head coach. He actually winds around the net. A defenseman goes all the way around the net, comes out the other side, trying to execute the play. He was pushed to the outside well, gives it to Jonathan Drouin. So we've already mentioned one defenseman, Tony, has joined the rush. And who does Drouin find on the other side? The second defenseman joining the rush in Jordan Harrison. Now that's modern hockey. And what was the Buffalo winger doing at that time? He was about 40 feet back at the blue line looking for Jordan Harris.
Yeah.
That's the way the conceptual design of Martin St. Louis is being executed. These guys are doing it brilliantly. And like I finished the article with the sentence something to the effect of, can you imagine if he has a superstar in his midst and he's teaching that player how to be the best that he can be in the modern game? Wow. What could happen here with a little bit of luck, a little bit of good fortune? Is really exciting. Really, really exciting.
You know, Brian, I got to tell you, I had a good feeling about the St. Louis hire right from the onset. I really did. And I know a lot of people didn't. I wasn't going to bet against Marty St. Louis after everything he had gone through in his career. I said to myself, if there's one guy who can do it, it's him. I had heard a lot about his modern mind. I had heard a lot about that he saw the game rather differently. I had heard a lot about the fact that he had certain concepts. And I watched the way they're playing now with, like you said, some injuries, without a tremendous amount of depth. And I look into my crystal ball in 3 or 4 years, and I don't know if he's going to be there. And I really hope that he will be. I get a feeling that he can be there as long as he wants, to tell you the truth. And you can't say that for too many coaches. And when they're going to arrive, and they're going to be really good.
You know, like when he speaks, you know right away you're listening to a hockey genius. Like he only has to finish like 2-3 sentences, and you're like, this is really phenomenal just to listen to him. And then when you ask the other players in the room about him, I mean, they'll tell you that they think that they're listening to a hockey genius. Like they'll say that word.
Yeah.
You know, and this you just don't hear. Like you're lucky half of the time if they're not telling everybody that they hate the coach's guts. You know, he's such a player's coach that he is leading players who might have otherwise shied away from this city to say to themselves, okay, I'm in the learning phase of my career. Maybe I'm 22, 23, 24. And if I want to go somewhere, I want to go to Montreal and keep learning how to play the game under him. That's how excited everybody is to play for Martin St. Louis. That it could mean unrestricted free agents, instead of worrying about the weather, might actually put their careers first and say, I can become a better hockey player under him. And that's what I want. So the knock-on effect here, it's just phenomenal. And, you know, the funny thing, too, to add, is they're the 5th worst team in the league, right? I mean, they've had injuries like crazy. As many as 12 regulars were out at one time. And I think it's a low number now. It's 8 only. And, like, we're about finished this season, right? Were you not entertained?
All the time.
Yeah,
I mean, very, very, very often. Very, very often. At one point in the season, Brian, I'm trying to remember when it was. Maybe you can help me out here. They started to give up a lot of goals,
right?
Several games in a row.
That's right.
And some members of the fan base or some members of the media got on them saying that, you know, he wasn't practicing any defensive concepts and this team only knew how to play one type of hockey and it wasn't good enough and he wasn't coaching and this and that. And then, you know, they tightened up for like a game or two. And I thought when they did, I thought it was boring. And, but, you know, there haven't been a lot of boring games this year. They're playing with no pressure whatsoever. They're having fun. And you saw it too. Like, you know, if the Canadiens need to win this game to get into the playoffs, I'm not sure he selects Mike Matheson to take a penalty shot or a shot in the shootout there. I'm not sure he selects Kovacevic. I'm not sure he selects Pizzetta. As a matter of fact, I'd be willing to say that he wouldn't select either of them at those stages when he did. But they're having fun, you know. They're building towards next year already.
Yeah, and you know, like just to complete the point about how entertaining it is, like this is a team that is 5th last. and is very close point-wise to the team that Marty St took over from under Dominic Ducharme.
Yeah.
And, I mean, the world is comparison, and this is not going to sound very nice. But, I mean, that team was so boring. It was like pulling teeth to watch the games.
Yeah.
And the points are, because of all of the injuries, they're fairly similar. But the feeling is completely different because you can tell they're building towards something. Like, this is year 2 of the rebuild, right?
Yeah.
So in year 2, because all your wins, losses, who cares? Like, this is it. Who cares? It's not about that. In fact, if you lose a little bit more, it'd be better. If you could get your goalies to do .860 for you, it wouldn't change the way the hockey was played. You'd just be with a better chance of Connor Bedard.
Of course.
So, right? So, but let's look at this year from a development point of view. I mean, there's basically, I'm going to say there's only been one thing that went semi-wrong, and I'll leave it for last. Here are the rights. You broke in 5 rookie defensemen, Tony, and they all look like they're National Hockey League regulars.
Yeah.
Mike Matheson has gone from a guy who got benched in Florida to a 1D. He looks like a first pair defenseman under Marty.
He definitely does.
You got Kirby Dach, who you weren't sure, so unsure with Chicago, they gave up on him at 21 years of age, 3rd pick overall, who clearly looks like a top 6 center. And when you saw him acting like beast mode in overtime at the end of an 80-second shift, going to the net, protecting the puck, giving you all that he was drafted 3rd for.
I'm glad you brought that up, because the way he fought off Quinn, like you can see the power in Kirby Dach
and the protection ability of the puck. He took, and that was the end of 80 seconds. He's supposed to have lactic acid in his legs and nothing but nitrogen in his lungs. And he had no problem at all.
Yeah.
Right. So
he's a machine.
He's a machine. So you got Dach, you got 5 defensemen, you've got Mike Matheson, you've got Raphael Harvey-Pinard, you've got Nick Suzuki breaking his career points total. You had Cole Caulfield on pace for 47 before his shoulder difficulties. Yeah. So, when you're looking at it as you want to have a lot of development stories, there's nothing but success. And the only semi-failure is the 1st pick overall, Slafkowski, who didn't get a chance to really show what he could do. But in the short time that he did get a chance, I don't think he shone. I wasn't expecting him to. He's only 18 years of age.
Yeah.
And he didn't.
Yeah.
And he could have developed in the second half, but didn't get a chance. So I'm not holding it against him. Yeah. But when you look at you're trying for it to be nothing but great stories of development, he's the only one we didn't get.
In terms of from a development standpoint, yes, because but it's just, we're talking development here, right?
We're just talking development.
Yeah.
And you had nothing but amazing stories. Even Sam Montembeault in the net.
And Raymond deserves a lot of credit for Montembeault as well. Robida deserves a lot of credit for the young defenseman and the work that he's done with them. But
and Adam Nicola deserves a lot of credit for all of them, what he's teaching them, and the prospects too that he gets a chance to talk to, who are basically all of them except maybe Machar have really had excellent seasons. Yeah. They continue to grow, every last one of them.
Yeah, yeah. You brought up Ylönen's name before, and if it's not for him scoring in the shootout, of course, the Canadiens end up losing, and one's able to trickle by Comrie. But that overtime was really something, though. Chances both ends, and the pace. I mean, the speed. I mean, Buffalo can fly, and you know what? The Canadiens were with them every step of the way. It was fast. I mean, it was great hockey.
It was fantastic hockey, and you mentioned the pace that Buffalo could play at. I mean, Buffalo's a really offensive team, and they play at a fast pace. They've got a lot of stars on their team offensively. They score a ton of goals, give up a ton too. But it didn't feel like the entire night that the Canadiens were troubled at all by a team that was absolutely desperate to have a good result tonight. You got one team that's only playing for pride and just like a hell a ton of it. I mean, you look at the bench after. I don't know if you had to run to your location, but I mean, you see a bench celebrating like they just made the playoffs.
Yeah, no, I saw that. I thought the coaches were all smiling, and then
exactly
of course, the players when they saw
Bizzetta's
celebration.
Yeah,
that was pretty funny. But listen. It probably could have been another game, of course, if Tage Thompson was playing. He wasn't playing. He's been an incredible story for the Buffalo Sabres, going back last year where he exploded with 38 last year goals, that is, and this year he's got 44 already. But
and the Canadiens have missed their guy for half a season.
That's true too. Thompson and Skinner have given it to the Canadiens over the last couple of games, but for whatever reason, the games are always very entertaining in Buffalo, and we see goals. It seems like it's been that way for a couple of years.
You see all the red in the crowd?
I did.
That was a home game.
Yeah.
That was a home game. I mean, that's, they come from over the border, and that was a home game. And
yeah.
The let's talk for a second about the fans.
If I can, it's one of the things that came to mind when he chose Pizzetta from Toronto, Ontario. Like, I'd be willing to bet there were a lot of family and friends at that game for Michael Pizzetta tonight.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought of it, and that might have been some of the thinking on some of the picks that he made. Maybe they were unusual picks. That's for sure.
I'm thinking it's Pizzetta probably would have celebrated that way anyway, but I'm sure in front of family and friends he wanted that a little bit more there tonight, and good for him. Good for him. Kovacevic's move was pretty funny. I mean, it looked like he was, what am I doing here? And then
I don't know. I thought that was a pretty good move, actually, Tony.
Yeah.
I thought it was a really good move. I mean, he didn't execute it, obviously, but he was a guy with an idea, at least, right?
Yeah.
Nothing worse than the guy just going 5-hole and putting it right into the pads. That'll never look good.
Yeah, there's a message that came in. From... let me just say, I believe it's Isa Fortin, who wrote a message saying, hey, sorry, but guys will choose where they want to live before choosing who they want to play for or which team they want to play for. When we're talking about the fact that, the Canadiens got it going on right now, it's probably a pretty good place to play going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I want to say guys is in terms of like that responder is acting like 100% of the world thinks the same way. Yes, I mean, there will be a large amount of people that play hockey that are going to say, you know what, I love golf. And I want to pick a place that I get to golf on the off days.
Yeah.
Let's not, like, the hockey player is not a monolith. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I hear you.
There are different folks, different strokes for different folks. And some guys are going to care about developing their careers.
Yeah.
And another guy is going to be afraid of the fishbowl. Another guy's going to hate the weather. Another guy's going to hate taxes. And generally speaking, we've spoken over the years, Tony, you and I, we go back a long way. And I know we've talked a lot about the reasons people don't come to Montreal. Everybody knows them.
Mm-hmm.
But we got a reason right now, finally, that people could come to Montreal. There's a great atmosphere brewing here. And yeah, I'm not going to say that 700 players are going to be clamoring to play for the Montreal Canadiens because Martin St. Louis can teach him, because the attitude is wonderful, because there's a joy in the entire process right now, because he's an amazing players coach. But let's turn the coin over, because if you say the one thing and act like it can't be that somebody would want to come from Martin St. Louis, let's do the contrary and ask if it too could be true. And so I ask, do you think somebody would say, I don't want to play for John Tortorella?
I would imagine there's players that don't want to play for John Tortorella.
I know Pierre-Luc Dubois doesn't want to play for John Tortorella no matter what.
Yeah,
do you think PLD would want to come to Montreal and play for his hometown if the head coach here was John Tortorella? I think everybody can answer that question at home.
No, I'm going to take it a step further. I think besides the fact that Pierre-Luc Dubois would like to play for his hometown team, I think he loved Marty St. Louis so much when he was consultant / power play coach in Columbus, and he probably really, really liked them back then. Saw what he's doing right now, probably talked to a player or two and probably talked to a David Savard who said, Pierre, this guy has made one heck of a coach. And so,
okay. And let me further it even more.
Yeah.
Okay. So everyone's watching us right now, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to assume I assume a lot of the people watching us right now have jobs. Generally speaking, jobs have bosses.
Yeah.
Do you think anybody has hated their boss and wish they had another one?
100%.
100%.
Probably everyone at some point.
Exactly.
You know,
not everyone. Again, I'm not saying 700 players are going to be clamoring to Montreal and forget that they like golfing in the winter and would rather play in Dallas. I'm not saying 700, but I'm saying there is a portion of the people that put the hockey where they want to learn and become a better player and have to make a decision on their future, and then would like to have a boss that they appreciate, and would enjoy going to the office every day. Like you sign a 7-year contract and you say to yourself, well, I'm going to the office every day, and that guy's an asshole. That's not easy.
No, it's not easy for sure.
Okay.
And that's why the beauty of podcasts is you can work from home.
Yeah. And I can say the word asshole if I want.
Yeah, you can definitely say that if you want. I have no problem with that. I could probably even say that one.
No, your wife. No, your wife will not be happy with you.
Yeah, then she would remain consistent because it seems like she never is. But anyway.
That's funny, Tony.
Yeah,
that's
you know the
funny.
way it is. I mean, I think you did this marriage thing once before, and
no comment.
I digress. All right, I got a pretty good situation going on. I got 3 great bosses: radio, television, and podcasting. We got a beautiful
Who's your
relationship.
podcast boss?
Agnello.
Okay, would you call him your boss? You take orders from him?
You know what? I'll tell you why I have a great situation.
Okay.
On French radio, BPM Sports, French television, TVA Sports, and with Agnello and Sammy, the Sick Podcast, I got 3 bosses who put all their confidence in me, and they just let me do my thing.
That's nice.
And you know what? Some days are going to be better than others, and some days I might try something that it might not go over all that well, but that they're happy with, and that they aren't. And that's it. And you know what? When something doesn't go according to plan, or it's not great radio or great television or great podcast, I know it. Yeah. You know, I really, with all due respect, I don't need anyone to tell me. Like, I know while it's going on, and I'll especially know the second I get off. I know.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, it's great to have good
It's
bosses.
a good situation.
And I really feel as if the Canadiens bosses
all right, okay.
are good. Oh, did we lose my audio?
Jonathan Drouin.
Can you hear me, Tony?
I so wanted him to get that goal tonight. What happened? You're gone for a second. You're back now.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. Yeah, I felt like I was gone for a second there. Okay, good.
Who are you watching? The Oilers?
Yeah. Do you have a score? It's 1-1.
It's 1-1. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I got to tell you, and I don't want to. We'll get back to. Andre Tourigny has the Coyotes in the last 15 games playing some really unreal hockey. Like it's
absolutely, and led by Clayton Keller, who I believe is, I think, 2nd or 3rd in the league in scoring in about the last 25 games. Yeah. Somebody who's got him in the pool, I'm sure, can tell me, because he's absolutely on fire. And boy, can he make goalies look bad now. Clayton Keller has turned into the player that I really believed at the World Junior Championships, watching him up close, he was going to turn into. He is that player now.
He's
It's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're going
to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick Podcast, your #1 sports destination.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
SICK is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight.
All right, it looks like I'm back. All right. Okay. Sorry about that.
Gave me a chance to watch the Oilers. I'll tell you what, that Mullet Arena is small, but it's got some great lighting.
Yeah, no. Hey, the Bell Center, did you see the poll with the NHL players voted the best ice in the National Hockey League, which is
What?
something-
Not Edmonton?
No, Edmonton second. You didn't see that. By the way, the Bell Center
Wow.
in a landslide, by a lot.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Edmonton #2, but Montreal by a lot.
Wow, Edmonton used to be #1
Yeah,
for
well,
years
they
and
were.
years and years.
Yeah, they were for a very, very long time. All right, so once again, my apologies. I don't know exactly what happened, but we went and we fixed it. All right, okay. So Agnello and Sammy all of a sudden have become technicians too. It's pretty cool to have them. Okay,
You do a job, you learn.
there were some good saves in this hockey game, eh? I mean, Jake Allen played a pretty good game, made some big saves when he had to.
Yeah, and had a couple of weird goals too.
A couple of weird goals. Yeah, the one behind the net there where it banked off the shoulder. But by the way, I always love when players do that because they
the talent these days, eh?
They notice that the goalie is out of his net a little bit instead of basically crouching down. And they're like,
well, they're looking for the goalie to go into that RVH too soon, right?
Yeah.
And as soon as he goes down, I mean, that's how the Michigan is possible, is this new style of goaltending of going down to when the guy's got an angle that he has to find a spot like that,
Yeah.
But they can shoot it well that they find that spot. I mean, the hockey right now is, in 2004, Tony, the leading scorer was Jamie Benn. He didn't even have a point per game.
That's
Remember that?
That's
it was. I just looked at. They just listed the top scorers. The Pasternak was 4th with 97.
Wow.
Tkachuk was tied with 97 at 4th. 2004, the hockey was so bad there wasn't even 1 point per game player.
Wow.
Connor McDavid is going after records that we haven't been in the same stratosphere as those numbers since Gretzky and Lemieux. It's fantastic. The hockey right now is the sport is rejuvenated in the last couple of years, and
Brian,
it's because the talent level is getting through the roof. The kids these days are amazing.
The Sick Podcast is rejuvenated, Brian. Where you been, by the way? Where you been? It's been a while, Brian.
Oh, well, you haven't talked to me in a while.
Yeah, I haven't talked to you in a while.
Yeah. This is the first time you asked me in a little bit.
It's the first time I asked you in a little bit, really?
Yeah. He's checking his phone to see in the last text. Yeah, it's a little bit. It was about a month, I think. No, I did say no a couple times. I wasn't around. You got unlucky, but no, I certainly wasn't trying to be mean to you or anything.
No, I know you're not. I know you're not.
You
used to be a regular when I was doing radio. Remember that? So you and I, we go way.
Yeah,
back.
I remember it. We did that for about a decade together.
Yeah.
We had good times.
Wow, we
never got in a sauna together, but we had good times.
You know what? It's an open invitation anytime.
Whatever you want. With your dog?
Yeah, you know what?
No, it wasn't you who had a dog. Who had the dog?
No, Norman Flynn. Norman Flynn. Yeah.
That was classic.
It was a classic. We would love to be able to bring Norma on.
But wrong station, or is there an issue there or anything?
No. There's several people from that company that have joined me on the podcast before, but I think Norma and I had something pretty good, and some, just powers of be have told them.
Oh no!
Yeah, just it's not my story to tell. I probably shouldn't have. Whatever. But people have figured it out. I mean, I want Norma on, and he and I were together for over 15 years. And
he had a lot of good laughs. I'm trying to remember the gist of the dog one. Well, how did that one go again?
Yeah, no, it's Galchenyuk wasn't getting ice time.
Right.
And so I started to go on a rant, and I said, what in the world's going on over here? I mean, it's
didn't he have a poodle?
Galchenyuk and Pacioretty and Subban are some of the better players on the team, and they don't seem to be getting ice time and whatever. Or I don't know if I was talking about them or the line. And all of a sudden, I heard water splashing in the background, and I said, "What are you doing? Are you taking a bath or what?"
Right.
And he said, "No, I'm in the spa." And I said, "You're in the spa?" And he said, "Yeah, I'm working the games and getting home really late at night. So I'm in the spa now and I'm relaxing." And I said, "You're in the spa?" And he says, "Yeah." I said, "Are you alone?" I said, your wife with you?" And he goes, No, my wife's not with me. Just me and my cocker and his dog. Right?
That was it.
So he had a Cocker Spaniel back in the day.
And,
that was it. He and the Cocker Spaniel were in the spa,
Got it right. Yeah.
So
I remember now.
Anyway, listen, I still hold hope that Norma is joining me at some point here. I still hold hope. I mean, things change, right? Mm-hmm. You were on the radio with me for the longest time, and then you were off, and then you're back on again, right? So things change.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I'm on a little bit again, which is nice. It's COVID taught me one thing that was something I didn't know that was in my world was you got to keep busy.
Yeah,
you got to keep busy, and you got to make sure you don't have too much time for your mind to wander too much. So.
Yeah.
Without, getting into big details, a busy mind is a good, happy mind.
No. You're right about that. So it's funny you say that. And the Sick Podcast, by the way, is brought to you in part by Energy Transportation Group, which is a leading full-service logistics provider serving all of North America, driven to be different, and also brought to you in part by Bittt Tibi, brewed in Quebec and a winner of a dozen international awards. Bittt Tibi offers quality microbrewery beers made with premium ingredients for everyone's taste. Bittt Tibi, embrace your true nature. It's funny you say that because I have a lot of time on my hands now compared to what I used to do. And, I thought I would love it. And I do. Like, don't get me wrong. I spend a lot of time in the spa. But at the beginning, I would stay home. And now I find that I'm starting to go out and have a coffee here or there or meet up with some people and keep busy. It's a lot of fun. But I'm going to have to try and stay away from the restaurants over the next little while as much as I can here because I started a weight loss challenge. And, I got on the scale this morning. I almost broke the scale. So biggest I've ever been. So, Jean-Charles Lajoie and I, we have a friendly wager going on as to, who's going to lose more weight. But he said in the next 60 days or so, he'll lose 21 pounds. I said I'll lose 25 in the next 60 days. And so now I'm, I should have had the discipline to do it myself, but the fact that I'm competing with somebody,
that helps.
I think it helps.
I can't compete with you on. If I lose 25, there'll be nothing. It'll just look like this. It'll be just like a sideways, like a full-on shot or a sideways shot.
I would think I have a good 87 to lose in my world. So if you want some, let me know.
Right, I'll pass.
All right. Okay.
All right. I got to ask you, can I ask you a question? Because what I've been interested in, and I haven't heard anything in a while from what's going on in your brain, but who do you like for the Canadiens? How do you, like for their roster going forward, like in terms of who would you like him to draft? They're going to draft around 5 and 15 if they don't win the lottery. Do you have a concept of how you think they need to improve their team and what guys they might like in relation to improving their team? Like, what do you think the biggest hole in the team is?
So I'm going to say this. Everyone wants the generational player. And everyone wants the best player. And based on what we've seen, based on what we've heard, based on the records that have been broken, it would lead you to believe that right now Connor Bedard is the best player of that draft class. Doesn't mean he's going to go on to have the best career. We all know that. But, you'd have to feel pretty good about it. I will say this because there's so many players that are available in this draft. So I'm going to say this. There's talk. I know that Grant has mentioned to me, Grant McCagg, recruits.ca has mentioned to me on more than one occasion that he believes that Michkov will slip in the draft because of the whole Russian angle, or will definitely slip in the Canadiens' eyes.
I believe he'll slip in the entire draft. I think he gets drafted around 12.
If I'm the Canadiens and I have the 6th pick and Michkov is available, I'm drafting him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah. I think he's the best pure talent in the draft.
But what if he doesn't come at all, Tony?
Who doesn't want to play in the best hockey league in the world?
Lots of guys.
Like who?
Plenty of the Russians that are playing in Russia right now.
Who's the best?
And what if they're not allowed to come? Like why did he sign for as many years as he did? Doesn't that already show that he's not exuberant about coming to the NHL?
It's a Kaprizov situation. It's worked out pretty well for him in the Wild.
Doesn't mean it's going to work out for everyone. And now you got the politics in the matter too.
Yeah.
You got Putin sending the Philadelphia Flyer goalie. I've forgotten his name now. He conscripted him. He put him in the army. He wanted to come to North America, and he said, "No, you're not. You're going in the army. That'll teach you." So I'm a little, and maybe for Kent Hughes, he's got a super long leash right now, and he doesn't really have to worry about 3-4 years. But like if you're a general manager and you got a chance to take Carlson or Fantilli or Smith or whatever around 2, 3, 4, 5 in that area, and you say to yourself, "Well, I probably only got like 2 years to prove myself, and I need a player badly. We suck." Yeah. And you're going to take a guy who's going to show up in 2026? Maybe?
That's when they're going to be good.
That's dangerous. I'm not saying Ken Hughes thinks that way. But I'm saying there are a lot of GMs. Like when I look at the first one, like I think Michkov's going to be taken when it's clear that the pick you're making is a definite lower level than he is.
I hear you.
So it's not Bedard. It's not Fantilli. It's not Carlson.
No.
Okay. I don't think it's Smith. I don't think it's Benson.
Dvorsky?
I don't like Dvorsky very much from what I've seen.
I don't think he has a lot of offense in his game.
No. I know that Grant really likes him. And I think he's like consolidated rankings around 7, 8, or 9. But he's a good two-way from what I see. He's smart and everything. But like I think that, like for instance, Will Smith, like he's dynamic, right? I mean, he reminds me of Cooley. And Cooley, you can see at Minnesota, he's going to be a star, man. Like Cooley's going to be a star.
Cooley's going to be a star.
I watched him at Minnesota this weekend. He is definitely going to be a star. At the World Juniors, he was a star. He's going to be a star.
If the Canadiens lose out in that draft, it's because of Cooley.
Exactly, I agree.
He'll be the guy.
And Cooley and Will Smith are very much alike. They both put at the United States Development Program ginormous numbers up. Will Smith's numbers are rivaling Jack Hughes's numbers, and his numbers are the best ever at the USDP. So, I'm not saying Michkov isn't better. I'm just saying, you got to have, a clear, the guy we're taking is definitely worse than Michkov to take him because you don't know if he's coming.
Yeah.
And you need a player fast because you suck. Montreal's got a lot of things in its favor. Kent Hughes has a giant long leash. The fans will put in 21-2-7-3 whether you suck until 2042. They're the Chicago Cubs of hockey. So those are two really important things. Other GMs have to worry about job security and 7,000 bums in seats.
Yeah.
It's a different world, man. So to say, Michkov's easily the best player, he's going 2. Forget it. No.
Yeah. Speaking
I
of
don't think it's as simple as that.
We're going to find out the results of the lottery on Monday, May 8th. Okay?
Oh, I'm excited. I'm excited for that.
What a stupid league. They do everything stupid. Why do you do it on a Monday? Like,
why do you do it in May?
Okay, so that's a great question. Now, here's the
why
deal.
in May?
Here's the deal.
When the playoffs start.
The NHL draft, one of the biggest days on the NHL calendar.
Mm-hmm.
NHL trade deadline day, one of the biggest days on NHL calendar, of course. The night the Stanley Cup comes out, huge day. Opening day, huge day. So there's other big days in a season, right? But this is a league that can use all the help that it can get because in the United States of America, it's going up against the other big sports, right? Where hockey takes a backseat to everybody, right? Think of the buzz in so many markets. There's going to be a buzz in Montreal. There'll be a buzz in Columbus. There'll be a buzz in Arizona. There'll be a buzz in many markets, okay? You can go out, you can have drinks, you can party all night, you can watch it. People can go over to each other's houses. They can have celebration. There's so many things that you can do. You can do fantasy. You can do whatever. They're having it on a Monday night, May 8th.
In May.
It's just so dumb.
I can't figure out why they don't do it as soon as they can. Why not April? Is there a reason it's not April 20?
So you know what?
Am I missing something?
Yeah.
That
So
I haven't thought of.
I would say that the season ends. Let's see when the season. I think it ends
13 or 14.
Right? 13 or 14, right?
Yeah.
So okay. So that's what, on a Thursday?
Friday. Season ends on a Friday.
Season ends on a Friday.
Yeah. Can you still hear me?
Saturday. Do it the next day.
Yeah.
Do it the next day. Do it on the Saturday.
Yeah, I don't understand it at all.
That's what I would do.
I don't understand. And of course, I'm going to be really impatient, because I really want to know how that goes. It's really exciting. Right now, they're in 5. Anaheim's gone. There's no way they're going 4. I mean, they're gone.
Yeah.
I mean, the Canadiens are 8 games under 500, and Anaheim's 17 under 500, NHL 500. And there's only 8 left. So it's almost a mathematical impossibility. But they can still screw up Arizona and Philly.
Yeah. Yeah. So Montreal, Arizona, and Philly will play for 5th worst.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. 4 is gone. Don't even think about it.
Yeah, no, they're not going to the top 4.
But 5 is still pretty sweet because even if you lose the lottery twice, you're still at 7. The worry is if you're 7 and lose the lottery twice and go to 9. That's the real worry, dropping all the way to 9.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't look like this Bedard thing's going to happen, Brian.
Well, I don't know. 5 is not bad math. And Florida lost today, Tony, to Ottawa. That's a nice result. Because, people are only talking in terms of who cares 15, 16, 17. But what if Florida does well in the playoffs? Yeah. What if they're in the Final 4? And I know they're not that good, but this is the NHL. Crazy crap happens in the NHL in the playoffs. It's the most unpredictable thing, and it's got the most long shots of any, except for, March Madness this year, which went nuts. Yeah. But generally speaking, the NHL, you better be worried if Florida makes the playoffs. Crazy things can happen.
Nick Suzuki tonight, 22 minutes and 9 seconds. Kirby Dach, 22 minutes and 29 seconds. We've seen
Mike Matheson.
Mike Matheson, 29:05. Unreal.
There you go. Don't tell me that Matheson Louis doesn't want to win some hockey games.
He's
got his best D out for half the game. Yeah. He's got his 2 top centers out for 22. I mean, he's still competing, man.
Yeah,
he's still competing. Yeah.
We've seen that Dach can play center, and we've seen that Dach can play wing. He's just great at both of them. He's very, very good at both of them. We know that Gordon and Hughes saw him more as a center than a winger when they went out and acquired him.
And they said it recently.
Yeah.
Martin St. Louis just said it recently. About 10 days ago, I was right in front of him when he said that we see him as a center. Yeah.
Yeah. His, and this is, this could make headline news, but it's not really when you think of it, right? I know that players drafted earlier, there are players that are drafted later that end up being the best player in their draft year. Example, Patrice Bergeron drafted 45th in 2003. As good as that draft was, nobody I'd take over Patrice Bergeron.
It happens.
But for the most part, the players that go 1, 2, and 3 end up being better than players that go 13, 14, 15. For the most part.
Of course.
And it's just,
I did a big study on it if you want
the
the
law
numbers.
of averages. Okay, so Suzuki was drafted 13th. Kirby Dach was drafted 3rd in his draft year. Albeit some draft years are stronger than others. I get all that too. Dach is a big boy. He's got a very, very long reach. Suzuki is obviously an elite playmaker, an elite 200-foot player. But you can make an argument. I don't even know if it's an argument that the ceiling is higher for Kirby Dach. Now, whether he hits that ceiling or not, that remains to be seen. But if they both be the best version of themselves, Kirby Dach can end up being the number one guy in the end.
Yeah, I think what's going to happen is like this pick at 5 and the pick at around 14. I got a feeling one's going to be a defenseman and one's going to be a forward, and I can't tell you which is going to be which. But I think they're going to add another top 6 forward here. And it's going to give them, if it's a center like Will Smith, it's going to give them the real luxury of putting Kirby Dach where he's best served in the moment. Because like when Kirby Dach was a winger for Nick Suzuki, like, he carried the puck out with zone exits, and his zone entries took so much pressure off Suzuki. And that's why that line worked so well. And there were a lot of nights that Suzuki and Caulfield without Dach, they got caved, but they didn't get caved when all 3 were together. Yeah. So, I think Martin St. Louis, when you add the top 6 forward that's going to come, and hopefully Slavkovsky matures and finds his level that made him drop draft number 1 overall, then you've got 5 of 6. And if you look at any NHL roster, and I did it recently, there really isn't a single team that has 6 of 6 top 6. They've always got one straggler. That's what it means to, have a cap situation. It's really hard to have 4 top 4D and 6 top 6 forwards. Yeah. I figured it out. Colorado had 6 of 6 last year before they lost Nazem Kadri. And then this year they only had 5 of 6. So it's a challenging thing to do. So if the Canadiens are at 5 of 6 with who they draft at 5, Dach, Suzuki, Caulfield, and a maturing, living up to his expectations, Slavkovsky, that's a hell of a top 6. And then there's a lot of freedom in that. Dach could be your center if that's what's working and the matchups are right. Or Dach could be on Suzuki's wing and help them to be a really terrific number 1 line. And the center that they get, if he matures and is a center like Will Smith, hopefully, then, you've got flexibility and talent galore.
Yeah.
So,
hey, Sean Farrell signed to an entry-level contract with the Montreal Canadiens. He's going to join or has joined the big team. We'll see when he makes his debut. Where do you have him on your Habs prospect depth chart in terms of overall?
Wow. I think on the team next year, before they fill out, he could be a second-line player.
No, but who do you have as a better prospect? Let me.
I see.
Sean Farrell, Lane Hudson, Logan Mailloux.
All right, I'm gonna surprise you. Okay,
Philip
you ready?
Machar, yeah.
I'm gonna say that
Bowen
the number one prospect on the Montreal Canadiens is Logan Mailloux.
Yeah, that's not a shock. He's 25.
That's what the team thinks.
25 goals, 6'5", 220, can shoot the puck harder than anybody in the National Hockey League.
102 miles per hour.
He's a horse.
He's a horse. He's a physical specimen. He's going to be a beast out there. Francis Bouillon thinks it's a no-brainer. He's going to be a really high-quality defenseman. He got 25 goals, which was tops in the Ontario Hockey League, admittedly, at the age of 20 against sometimes 18 or 19-year-olds. So a bit of an advantage, but the number is the number. He's got 102 mile per hour slap shot. He's offensively extremely creative. He's got a quick wrister, too. They say the only issue is sometimes his decision-making, and he's going to Adam Nicola and Martin St. Louis to work on his only flaws, which I think if he corrects, he's a first pair defenseman. If he corrects only partially, a second pair defenseman, and doesn't correct at all, still with his offense, a legitimate third pair defenseman. So he's a can't miss to me. So he's my top. And then Lane Hutson's ceiling is higher than anyone's, but his floor is also dangerous too. Go ahead.
Yeah, I know the previous management team and their scouts, they thought that Mailloux reminded them a lot of Weber in many respects, in terms of the size, in terms of the shot, in terms of the heavy shot, in terms of the right hand, in terms of the fact that he can defend himself. You know, they can deliver, thunderous hits and all that stuff. Like there's a lot of his game that they thought was very similar to Weber, and they knew that Weber was going to be calling it quits and stuff like that. And they thought, you know what, this guy could fill his shoes one day.
And they need a right side guy. I mean, they got Caden Gooley, who is naturally left, that they put on the right, and he shouldn't be on the right. He's a much better player on the left. So if you look at your pairings, you got Matheson, who's playing like a first pair D, and that pushes Gooley with all of his talents to second, which is about the same because your top four is basically equally ice. And then on the right side, you really only have Justin Barron, who I don't think who is going to be a first pair, but could be if he continues to grow his game and get a little bit ballsier than he plays. Then he could be a second pair guy. I think they're looking in the draft at a top four defenseman on the right side to fill out their roster some. So if Mailloux grows his game, there is a spot in the top four available to him. And I think the organization believes that he is their best prospect.
Yeah.
And I believe he is also their best prospect. Now, we tiptoe around these sentences because of his past, but there comes a time when the conversation actually has to start to be about his hockey. And I think we're there. It's time to talk hockey with this guy because he's demanding it of us, because that's what we do as our careers. We talk hockey. And in September, he's going to make us talk hockey all the time with what he brings to the rink.
Yeah. Do you imagine a power play of Lane Hutson, Logan Mailloux, Cole Caulfield, Nick Suzuki, and
Kirby Doc, Will Smith?
Kirby Doc.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Sean
we all
Farrell.
know why. Like, when was the last time? And this is why I and Mike Matheson. When was the last time the Canadiens had a good power play, and who was on it?
Sheldon
Surrey. Exactly. Sheldon Surrey, Andrei Markov, PK Subban. I mean, it's that type of player that they haven't had. It's that type of player that they haven't had in a long time. Like, I remember their best power play had options. And I mean, that's what makes a good power play. You had Koivu, who was often beside the net. You had Pacioretty, who was there, and he would often be in the bumper. You had Kovalev just going wherever he damn well pleased and just using all that skill. And at the point, you had Sheldon Surrey sometimes. You had Andrei Markov sometimes. You had PK Subban sometimes. But if you look at what they're missing now, like Caulfield's there. He acts as, the talented shooter. And Suzuki is there, and he acts as the option playmaker. But the real hole is on defense. And imagine instead, Logan Mailloux is firing 102 miles per hour. And then Lane Hutson is shifting left and right and leaving everybody without underwear.
Yeah.
Like, imagine that instead. It's so vastly superior to I think they're 30th right now. And for good reason. They really don't have options.
I ran into a buddy of mine, Max from Laval, last week, who every time I see him talks to me about Alex Kovalev. As a matter of fact, when when fans were boycotting outside the Bell Center. Remember that? They were picketing. They were picketing outside the Bell Center, wanting Kovalev to return, and they hadn't signed them yet. Max was there picketing for Kovalev to return. All right, okay. In ending, I've kept you for a long time now. Last one. Elliot Friedman says on his podcast, and I love Elliot. I think he's fantastic. So when Elliot says it, he says, pretty much at 95% here, Pierre-Luc Dubois is going to the Montreal Canadiens. Jets have talked to the Canadiens on and off about Dubois. We know that Dubois is going to end up there 95%. Is there some way we can make a deal so the Canadiens get him earlier and get something we want? He says that's what they're discussing right now. What would you do? Would you,
if I were Kent Hughes,
would you trade a prospect, or would you
I would
not
give you
trade much, or would you wait?
No, I would try to get the player as soon as possible. If the player wants to play here, I would say, okay, we got to know the numbers before we do this, because I can't let you hijack me after I've made the trade. Like the numbers got to be known, and it's got to be a Jonathan Drouin situation, right?
Yeah, yes, I understand. When Drouin arrived, when they traded for him, there was already a contract in place, and of course,
exactly. And Alan Walsh and Marc Bergevin had Drouin. Like, they announced the contract, like 90 minutes after the trade was completed. Yeah. It's got to be that way, because if they don't have anything up, and let's say you've made the trade, you're Kent Hughes, and now Pierre-Luc Dubois and his agent get together and say, well, I mean, we got him over a barrel now. They just made the trade for us. So now you're negotiating, and they've got they're holding all the cards. You got to make sure the contract's done before you even consider the trade. Yeah. If you can get the contract done and say, okay, 7 years for that amount, we both agree, excellent, super, let's do the deal. Then I would give up a B prospect and a second round draft choice.
Yeah. I wouldn't give up much.
But he wants to come. I wouldn't give up more than that.
I wouldn't give up much, because you can get him the year after, probably as an unrestricted free agent if you want to.
Exactly.
And by that time, a couple of players that were under contract are now off the books, so it's cleared up some room.
Right, but Cheveldayoff has to, he's got to save face a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's got to be something in the mix. You got to at least be able to say something like, I really like that Philip Michard. I think he's going to be like an amazing player. So we traded for him. You watch him skate. You know what I mean? He's got to be able to sell his fans something.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I hear you.
And the Canadiens are not a very good team. So we got a second rounder, which is essentially a first rounder, because we think they're going to finish in the bottom 5, blah, 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 blah. You got to be able to sell something. But, if you're Kent Hughes, no way do you give up anything in the top prospect category, and you certainly don't give up your first rounder.
Would you give up Joshua Roy?
I would not. I think Joshua Roy is going to be a great hockey player in the NHL.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, if he's going to be the hockey player that we saw, of course, at the World Juniors, he's going to be a really good hockey player. He is a good.
I wouldn't give up Lane Hudson. I wouldn't give up Logan Maillet. I wouldn't give up Joshua Roy. I wouldn't give up Riley Kidney. I wouldn't give up. I might give up Owen Beck. Because I don't think Owen Beck is ever going to fit into your team as anybody who's in the back six for sure. You can give up, because the back six, Tony, you can get the back six at the trading deadline.
Yeah, of course.
All the time, right? All the time, you can get your back six without giving up first rounders. So it's no big deal.
Yeah, Brian, great show. Thanks, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, Tony, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, there you have it. The Wild Man, Brian Wilde of Global TV Montreal. 1-888-585-7425 is the number. It's you called.
You called. Presented by Playground.
It's presented by Playground for sure. And major poker festivals are back at Playground. The March Million features 10 ring events and $1 million in guaranteed prize money. Pools including a $400,000 guaranteed main event play in Playground's March Million Poker Series from March 23rd to April 2nd. Visit playground.ca for more details, and we'll get to your phone calls at 1-888-585-7425, 1-888-585-SICK. Not before I talk to you about Matrix Home Fitness, whether it's cardio equipment, fitness equipment, whether it's an elliptical, whether it's a rower, whether it's a bike, Whether it's a treadmill, you can bring it home, discover a club quality workout in the comfort of your own home. Visit matrixhomefitness.ca. I built a little gym at home, and I have the treadmill, and I have the rower, and Yellow has the elliptical. And we keep saying that we're going to get the bike, and I would imagine we will sometime soon. Agnello and Sammy at Master Control, if you have a couple of calls, you want to bring them up, no problem. If not, just bring up a couple of comments. We've already hit the hour mark of the Sick Podcast, but then again, we were off probably for a couple of minutes due to technical difficulties. So we'll take a couple of calls and a couple of comments. Is it a red flag that Pierre-Luc Dubois keeps wanting out of wherever he plays? Yes, for me it is. For me, it's a red flag. I would proceed, but you proceed with caution. Then again, you can say, first time he wasn't crazy about his coach. Second time, he's not crazy about the city, and he wants to come home where he was. Maybe. I think it's a little bit of a red flag. Next. I ran into Salmon and Yellow last Friday outside of a sushi place. It was like seeing celebrities in person. Wow. Okay. Salmon and Yellow, every time they go out, they never bring me out. Anyway, I can't go out anymore. Today I prepared meals for like the rest of the week. Matrix is real says, what is Joshua Roy's full potential? Is he elite or a top third line center? He's a top six player. That's his potential for sure. We saw him playing on the line with Connor Bedard at the World Juniors. It was awesome. Bob in Greenfield Park. Bob.
How are you?
Well, to be totally honest with you, I've had a terrible headache for the last 3 or 4 hours, but other than that, it's absolutely great. I mean, it's there's certain foods that I haven't touched, and I think I'm in a little bit of a withdrawal right now, but other than that, it's all good. Bob, how are you?
I'm very good. Very good. Good show.
Thank you. Thank you, Bob.
I'd like to just say that what if the Canadiens trade down? Let's say they're at the 5th spot and they really don't want Will Smith, but trade down for maybe getting rid of somebody in the lineup and going down and getting somebody that they really want.
So give me an example.
5th spot, Will Smith. They don't really want him.
Okay.
They go to Arizona. They said, okay, well, you want Will Smith or whoever it is? Do you want to talk? There could be 3 teams that want him. And they say, do you want him? We'll trade down if you give us maybe your 12th for something, and we'll give you a couple of players. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I hear you. But that would be accelerating the rebuild. Yes. It all depends on the players coming back and what, Kent Hughes and Jeff Gordon, they're going to look at the player they could have. They're going to take a look at the other players they could acquire and they're going to take a look at the potential for all the players available, and that's how they're going to decide, I guess. But I don't have
a lot of players, a lot of I guess we'll say money or the fan base is going on. They want to build it. So do they have the money to, like even the Canadiens are in that spot right now with a lot of good players. Are they going to be able to sign them all? Or are they going to have to pass off on them or something?
Yeah, that's why I hesitate a little bit when you talk about, make this trade and that trade and this trade. And you're going to need some players on entry-level contracts. Some of these prospects, you cannot just trade them for an established player. You're going to need some entry-level prospects. I don't think people are taking into consideration that Cole Caulfield might break the bank here.
Yeah. Cole Caulfield, and maybe even down the road, if you say that Kirby Dach's a number 1 center and you want to keep Suzuki, is he viable to trade? That's the whole thing, right?
Dach's got a 4-year deal. Those 4 years, they pass pretty fast. He's at 3.5 right now. His next deal, if he ends up playing better and producing more than Suzuki and Caulfield, all of a sudden you probably have to pay him 4 years from now. You probably have to pay him upwards of $8.5 million or $9 million. Cole Caulfield might ask for about $9 million. If you go out and get Pierre-Luc Dubois, I mean, even if he takes a discount, they'll probably come in at 7 at the least.
Mishkov is a good pick because you have a couple of Russians in the system, and maybe that's the road you go down in the next couple of years of drafting.
Yeah.
I think too that's one way to go too if he would come up.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's a good position we're in.
Yeah, for sure.
I've been watching hockey since the '60s, so I mean, it's great.
Hey, I'm gonna ask you this.
Yeah.
The last Canadiens defenseman you saw that skates like Mike Matheson is?
Not Markov, but before he got hurt with his knees, he skated well.
Yeah.
Boy, good question. That skates like him, not many.
I was talking to Gilbert Delorme about him earlier today, and he says, Tony, every time I see him skate, it reminds me of Scott Niedermayer, who obviously never played for the Montreal Canadiens, but Scott Niedermayer, one of the most effortless, smoothest skaters in the history of the National Hockey League. Mike Matheson's skating is absolutely elite. Bob, thank you so much for calling me tonight. I appreciate it, and thanks for watching and listening. We have another caller we're going to. Where are we going, Sammy? Let's go to, hello, is it Al the Mailman?
That's me. What's up?
Alfonso, what's going on?
Tony, how do you know Alfonso? How do you know that?
You're Alfonso Fata. I know you.
And I do want to say to my uncle Angelo, who just passed away off of Shabbat, arrived to heaven, and he was a big Canadian fan.
Oh, really? I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, he's 93. I think he was.
God bless.
He was a baby, but he beat my mother out.
God bless. God bless. Tell me, Al.
Tony, this team is fabulous.
Fabulous?
Yeah, fabulous. I mean, don't forget, Tony, we got a lot of people missing.
Yeah.
And I think next year when we get it all together.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just made a pizza and I'm having a.
Yeah, no, have your pizza. This is exactly what I need right now on day one of my lifestyle change, where I had asparagus, I had broccoli, I had mushrooms, and I had 4 ounces of a chicken breast and nothing more. I drank about 3 liters of water. I absolutely need to hear right now at 11:07 that you are having a pizza. This is great.
Tony, I apologize.
You don't have to apologize, Al. You and I are friends.
Yeah, I understand.
Even though we never met. Once upon a time when the Canadiens were playing the Tampa Bay Lightning in the Stanley Cup final, you.
Go ahead. What happened? What happened? Tony. Tony, you there?
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion, going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the.
All right. Do we have Al? Are you still there by any chance? Al, are you still there?
I'm still here, Tom.
Yeah. And so you lost me. My apologies, folks. Today has been one of these days. The day started bad at 7 a.m. when all of a sudden me with my CPAP machine and my full face mask, all of a sudden it went and there was no more air coming in. What in the world is going on? We lost electricity this morning at at 7 a.m. When did we get it back? Like at 3:40 in the afternoon. And now I don't know what's going on. Usually a very reliable internet. I don't know how it can't be. I mean, I'm on a hardwired, and so I have no idea what just happened. But I've been gone a couple of times now, so sorry about that. Okay, Al.
No worries. I do apologize about the pizza.
No, you don't have to apologize. You know, I said before that back in the day when I was doing radio, I was thinking of going down to Tampa for the Canadiens and the Lightning. And if memory serves me well, you offered me to stay at your place. I didn't end up going, but did you not offer me to stay at your place or something?
Absolutely. I'll give you my phone number right now. You could come back.
You see, I never forget stuff like this, Al. I never forget stuff like this. Hey.
I know you don't.
Thanks for calling, Al. We'll talk to you soon.
Hey, I love you, man.
Hey, I love you too.
I listen to you every day.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
God bless you. And
all right.
Go Habs, go next year.
Go Habs, go. Yes. Okay. Let's go back to Sammy. Sammy, do we have one more? Because I don't know if I got to end it like that. Do we have one more or what? Tony, this guy sounds almost exactly like Chris Nyland. Not really. Yes and no, I guess. Yes and no, I would think. Okay. That's it for tonight. Apologize for these two technical difficulties. But overall, I think, look, we had Brian Wilde for close to an hour tonight. Not too shabby. Tony est parti dans le frigidaire. No, Tony didn't go to the fridge. Trust me. Tony did not go to the fridge. No, I didn't go to the fridge. I'm back, but then that's it. I'll be back tomorrow, okay? So Monday to Friday, weeknights at 10 p.m., the Sick Podcast. Tomorrow night, it's the Canadiens and the Philadelphia Flyers. Tonight, the Canadiens beat the Buffalo Sabres by a score of 4-3 in a shootout. Unlikely hero, Michael Pezzetta, with the Tiger Williams celebration. That's it for me. Have a good night, everyone. Thanks for watching the Sick Podcast.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. La Vida Tibi. Embrace your true nature.